March 30th, 1944. Field Marshal Erich von Manstein, the Wehrmacht's most brilliant strategist, is summoned to Hitler's mountain retreat. The meeting lasts less than 30 minutes. Hitler awards him the swords to the Knight's Cross, thanks him for his service, and fires him. This happens just 9 weeks before D-Day, with the Eastern Front collapsing, at the exact moment Germany needs strategic genius most. This is the general who designed the plan that conquered France in 6 weeks, who nearly saved Stalingrad, who proved mobile warfare could defeat a numerically superior enemy. And Hitler fires him. Not for losing battles, Manstein never lost when allowed to fight his way. Not for disloyalty, he refused to join the conspiracy against Hitler. He was fired because he kept being right when Hitler was wrong, and he wouldn't stop saying it. 11 days earlier, Manstein had done the unthinkable. He threatened to resign unless Hitler authorized a breakout to save 200,000 encircled troops. Hitler backed down. But dictators don't forget when subordinates force their hand. Here's how the Wehrmacht's greatest mind became too dangerous to keep. If you want to understand how brilliance becomes a liability in authoritarian systems, hit subscribe, because this channel breaks down the mechanics of power and the cost of being right. Manstein wasn't just another German general. Born Fritz Erich von Lewinsky in 1887, he was the 10th child of a Prussian general. Before he was a day old, a telegram went to his childless aunt and uncle. "You got a healthy boy today." Pre-arranged adoption. His adoptive father, Prussian general. His biological father, Prussian general. Both grandfathers, generals. His uncle, Field Marshal Paul von Hindenburg, the titan of World War I. He didn't join the army. He was born into its aristocratic core, the custodian of a military tradition dating to Frederick the Great. He embodied the famous officer matrix, coined by General Hammerstein Eckward. He was the clever and lazy type, the brilliant strategist who delegates details to keep his mind clear for critical decisions. When Manstein looked at Hitler, he saw an Austrian corporal with no grasp of general staff principles, and he made no effort to hide his contempt. During Hitler's rambling monologues at situation conferences, Manstein would turn to colleagues and whisper audibly, "My God, what an idiot!" Any other officer would have been arrested for this. Manstein survived because he was indispensable, but barely. The contempt went deeper. He trained his dog, a spaniel named Nerps, to raise its paw in a mock Hitler salute whenever the Führer's name was mentioned or when Hitler's voice came on the radio. A dangerous joke that captured his worldview perfectly. The Nazis were ridiculous upstarts, and Hitler's authority was theatre. Hitler knew he was tolerated, not respected by this Prussian aristocrat, and Hitler, who had clawed his way from nothing, hated him for it. But in 1940, Manstein gave Hitler the victory that would make both their careers and set the stage for their eventual collision. 1939, after Poland falls, the German High Command faces the question: how do you invade France? The official plan repeats World War I, main thrust through Belgium, exactly where the Allies expect it. Manstein, then Chief of Staff of Army Group A, thinks this guarantees stalemate. He proposes something radical: concentrate armor through the Ardennes forest, terrain the French consider impassable for tanks, punch through at Sedan, race to the Channel, cut off Allied armies from behind. The High Command calls it reckless. To silence him, they transfer him to command an infantry corps in Stettin, far from planning headquarters. But Manstein uses his aristocratic connections to get a direct breakfast meeting with Hitler on February 17, 1940. Hitler, who hated the conservative High Command plan but lacked the expertise to propose alternatives, immediately grasps Manstein's concept. He orders it adopted. May 10th, Germany invades using Manstein's Sichelschnitt, the sickle cut. France surrenders in 6 weeks. It's the most stunning victory of the 20th century, and here's the problem. Hitler takes credit. Nazi propaganda hails it as the Führer's genius. Manstein is decorated, promoted, but kept in the background. This dynamic defines everything that follows. Hitler relies on Manstein's brain to solve impossible problems while resenting him for being the actual author of Germany's successes. Manstein knows his intellectual property was stolen by an amateur. The resentment festers. By 1942, when disaster strikes at Stalingrad, the relationship begins to fracture. November 1942, the German 6th Army, 300,000 men, is surrounded at Stalingrad. Hitler orders them to hold, promises air supply will sustain them. Manstein, commanding the newly formed Army Group Don, launches Operation Winter Storm on December 12th to rescue them. His panzers fight through winter hell and get within 30 miles of Stalingrad's perimeter by December 19th. Close enough that soldiers see each other's signal flares at night. Manstein sends urgent messages. The 6th Army must break out now. The corridor won't stay open. Hitler refuses the breakout order. He's convinced holding Stalingrad is psychologically necessary. That retreat is weakness. Manstein argues the mathematics. Air supply delivers a fraction of what's needed. Thousands are dying daily. The corridor is closing. Hitler is unmoved. By December 23rd, Soviet counterattacks force Manstein's relief force back. The corridor closes. February 2nd, 1943, the 6th Army surrenders. 91,000 survivors march into captivity. Most never return. This is the moment Manstein stops believing in Hitler's judgment, and Hitler starts viewing his generals as defeatists. But 3 months later, Manstein performs what military historians consider the war's greatest operational feat, and buys himself another year. February 1943, the Southern Front collapses. Soviet armor races toward the Dnieper, threatening to trap all German forces. Hitler flies to Manstein's headquarters on February 17th, demanding he hold Kharkov at all costs. Manstein argues holding statically is suicide. Instead, he proposes letting the Soviets take Kharkov and advance until they're overextended, then strike their exposed flanks. Hitler hates giving ground, but the situation is desperate. Soviet tanks are reportedly within gunshot range of the airfield where Hitler's plane is parked. He gives Manstein operational freedom. The result is the Third Battle of Kharkov, the backhand blow. Manstein waits until the Soviets are stretched thin, then unleashes concentrated panzer strikes against their flanks. He destroys 3 Soviet armies, recaptures Kharkov, stabilizes the front. It's a masterclass in mobile defense studied in military academies today. And it cements Manstein's conviction. He's proven he understands warfare better than Hitler. But this victory leads directly to Kursk in July, where Hitler delays a planned offensive for months to wait for new Tiger and Panther tanks. By the time Operation Citadel launches, the Soviets have built the most fortified position in history. The offensive fails. Germany loses its last strategic reserves, and the Soviets hold the initiative for the rest of the war. Manstein had argued for immediate action in May. Hitler waited until July. Manstein was right again, and the disagreements become constant. As Germany retreats through late 1943 and early 44, Manstein repeatedly requests mobile defense, trade space for time, avoid encirclements, preserve forces. Hitler repeatedly refuses. Every city must be a fortress, no retreats without permission. Manstein argues this creates more Stalingrads. Hitler accuses him of defeatism. January 27, 1944, Wolf's Lair headquarters. Another crisis briefing. Hitler launches into a tirade about the cowardice of generals, claiming retreats are failures of will. Manstein interrupts him. Red-faced, he steps to the map table and asserts the crisis exists because Hitler siphoned off reserves to other fronts and refused timely withdrawals. He challenges Hitler's competence directly in front of junior officers. Accounts of this moment vary into legend. Some say Manstein knocked a pointer from Hitler's hand. Others that he slammed his hand on the map. But the verbal assault is documented. He told the dictator to his face that he was the problem. Everyone present expects Manstein's immediate arrest. Hitler stares him down, closes the conference without a word. He still needs Manstein, for now. But 3 weeks later, Manstein crosses a line he can't walk back. February 1944, 2 German corps, 60,000 men, are encircled near Cherkassy. Hitler declares it a fortress, forbids breakout, orders a relief attack Manstein knows is impossible. Manstein prepares the breakout in defiance of Hitler's orders. February 16th, he issues the code word freedom to the trapped troops, ordering them to move before receiving Hitler's permission. A fait accompli. The troops are already breaking out when Hitler learns what happened. Roughly 36,000 men escape. Manstein saved them by disobeying the Führer. 3 weeks later, it happens again. March 1944, the 1st Panzer Army, 200,000 men under General Hube, is encircled at Kamenets-Podolsky. Hitler orders a breakout south. Manstein calculates this means annihilation. He flies to the Berghof and issues an ultimatum: authorize a westward breakout or I resign. For a tense moment, the dictator faces the general who just forced his hand at Cherkassy and is now threatening to quit. Hitler backs down. Hube's army breaks out west in a moving pocket, one of the war's most remarkable escapes. This is the only time a general successfully forced Hitler to reverse a stand-fast order on this scale. Manstein was right again, but he'd crossed the final line. He'd forced Hitler's hand twice in a month, proven his judgment superior, made the dictator yield. 11 days later, Hitler fires him. March 30th, 1944, the Berghof. The meeting is brief and courteous, a sharp contrast to the shouting matches of previous months. Hitler's explanation is revealing. The time for grand-style operations in the East, for which you have been particularly qualified, is now past. All that counts now is to cling stubbornly to what we held. Translation: I don't need someone smarter than me anymore. I need someone who obeys. Manstein's replacement is Field Marshal Walter Model, the Führer's fireman. Model is a convinced National Socialist who follows orders without the intellectual pushback Manstein offered. The trade is explicit: competence for obedience. Hitler chose loyalty over ability, knowing it would cost him strategically. 9 weeks later, the Allies invade Normandy. 10 months after that, Germany surrenders. Manstein returns to his estate and sits out the rest of the war, not arrested, not accused of conspiracy. Because, unlike Rommel, Manstein never crossed the line from strategic disagreement into resistance. Compare Manstein to Rommel, who we covered in our last video. Both brilliant commanders, both became problems for Hitler, but their fates diverged for a specific reason. Rommel chose halfway resistance, talked to conspirators, listened to plans, agreed Hitler needed to go, but refused to join the assassination plot. This gave Hitler reason to kill him while denying Rommel any defense. Result: forced suicide, October 44. Manstein chose strategic disagreement only, argued constantly, challenged decisions, even disobeyed operational orders when necessary, but stayed within military bounds. When conspirators like Henning von Treschow approached him, Manstein refused. Preußische Feldmarschälle meutern nicht. Prussian field marshals do not mutiny. He viewed his oath as absolute. He believed killing Hitler would create a stab-in-the-back legend and plunge Germany into civil war. So he refused. The result? Dismissal with honours in March 44. He survived the war. When you compare the two men, the pattern becomes clear. If you show total loyalty to the dictator, your position is stable. You'll be kept until the end, even if you're incompetent. If you choose strategic disagreement, arguing about how to fight but staying within military bounds, your position is unstable, but you can survive if you avoid conspiracy. But if you choose halfway resistance, talking to plotters without committing, wanting Hitler gone but refusing to act, you're in the fatal position. You give the regime a reason to eliminate you while denying yourself any way to fight back. Manstein chose the unstable position that got him fired. Rommel chose the unstable position that got him killed. The difference between survival and death came down to one line: arguing about how to fight the war versus arguing about whether Hitler should be fighting it at all. Manstein never crossed that line. It saved his life. May 8th, 1945, Germany surrenders. British forces arrest Manstein. 1949, he's tried in Hamburg for war crimes, including complicity in the Holocaust, as his 11th Army provided logistics to Einsatzgruppe D execution squads in the Crimea. Despite his aristocratic disdain for the Nazis, Manstein signed orders stating soldiers must appreciate the necessity of harsh measures against Jewry. He's convicted, sentenced to 18 years, serves 4, released in 53 due to health reasons. His memoir, Lost Victories, becomes a global bestseller. In it, he blames Hitler for every defeat, presents the Wehrmacht as professional and apolitical, and obscures the army's participation in genocide. The book is instrumental in creating the clean Wehrmacht myth that dominated Western understanding for decades. During the Cold War, West Germany rebuilds its military, and Manstein becomes an unofficial advisor, helping shape the Bundeswehr's doctrine, ironically advocating for the mobile defense strategy Hitler had forbidden. He dies in 1973 at age 85, having outlived Hitler by 28 years. The general fired for being too competent lived to see Hitler's system collapse, to see Germany rebuilt without Führer worship, to see his strategic principles validated by history. Hitler died in a bunker, surrounded by the consequences of refusing to listen. Manstein died peacefully, vindicated. The contrast couldn't be sharper. Manstein designed the France victory, nearly saved Stalingrad, understood mobile warfare better than anyone in the high command. None of it mattered once Hitler decided obedience was more valuable than competence. This pattern repeats across authoritarian systems. Purge the competent when they disagree, not because they're wrong, but because being right challenges authority. Manstein argued about strategy. Rommel flirted with conspiracy. One got fired, the other got cyanide. The dictator who couldn't tolerate disagreement died in a bunker. The strategist he fired lived another 28 years. Was Hitler right to value obedience over competence, or did firing Manstein seal Germany's fate? Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit subscribe to understand power dynamics in authoritarian systems. Thanks for watching.